I give you a post from John Mappin. All right. Here he said, Charlie, as in Charlie Kirk, has visited us on several occasions since his execution. Charlie is working in spiritual realms to ensure that the truth comes out. He has visited others too. Truth will be known. And then John Mappin tags Candace Owens specifically. He's reposting someone who said Charlie is not done. He is at work until the job is done. I believe TP is beginning to feel his presence. Okay. And then John Mappin adds by sharing a post from someone else who was saying probably why the Scofield Bible changed things so that communication with the dead became forbidden. So it's those pesky Jews trying to forbid people from talking to the dead. The dead in this case being Charlie Kirk. This is what John Mappin is claiming. So a couple of things I want to point out really quickly. He says Charlie is working in spiritual realms to ensure that the truth comes out. Why is he having such a difficult time? If this is indeed what Charlie has been up to, or down to, or wherever to, why is he having such a difficult time revealing the truth? I mean, he has John Mappin to go to. He has Candace Owens to go to. Keep in mind, she has made similar claims about Charlie Kirk visiting her from purgatory to reveal the truth to her. Not the entire truth, just enough truth to get you to continue watching her podcast in hopes that she will share more of the truth, which she definitely no-knows. Just no-know that much. She no-knows the truth. She doesn't know it, but she no-knows it. And she doesn't always say it because she wants to keep you clicking and watching for more. But no. That's not lying by omission. If you know something, but you don't say it. If you know the truth, but you don't say it, you're definitely not lying by omission. Well, I mean, you are, if that's the approach you take, but she's not. She never is. She knows all sorts of things, which she is not quite ready to tell you. But she's definitely not lying by omission, though everyone else is, according to her own standard of scrutiny and transparency. Sorry to go down that warpath, but had to get that out of the way. As for John Mappin, yeah, here he is. I have a little bit more on that. Also worth noting, in regards to his reference to the Scofield Bible, Candace Owens herself has said that the Scofield Bible is the reason why she got baptized into Catholicism, though her trajectory into Catholicism is a little bit questionable. You know, she has also lied by omission about her confirmation or lack thereof, but we'll save that for another day. What else do I have here? I have a thread put together with some more information on the aforementioned John Mappin. But I do have a couple of clips that I want to share just because I happened to see them when I came home. All right, let's start with this one. By the way, these are two different clips here of Candace Owens on her podcast as of yesterday. Here's the first one.
Yeah, you're not innocent victims. You're kind of the opposite. You kind of gang stalk people. You don't leave people alone. And it's because you're using tactics of like black psychology. You know, you're trying to psychologically break somebody down with lies and smears and libels.
Okay. Lies, smears, and libels. Here she's accusing Turning Point USA of gang stalking her via black psychology, or whatever the kids call it these days. Keep that in mind as I play this next clip. Let's see if she keeps that same energy.
Very weird and very creepy. Mikey McCoy, I don't know if he has a place in there, him and Elizabeth, but they are there all the time because I have sources that live in the building, obviously. Like every single day they are there. and they all work in like the community center there, and everyone finds it to be very creepy. It's like very weird.
Yeah, very weird. I agree with you on that. You are indeed very weird, as is John Mappin. But the conclusion here is Candace Owens be like, you're gang stalking me, and also I have my people watching your every move. She has sources watching your every move, TPUSA. Can she say who these sources are? No, she cannot. But again, she is definitely not lying by omission. You are, if you so much as disagree with her, but she's not. All right, one more clip. This here is a compilation of clips put together by Nathan Livingstone, who says, Candace Owens has been telling her audience we're getting close to cracking the Charlie Kirk assassination for 200 days straight. She isn't close. The case has already been solved. Not by her, of course. Not even by me, but the only case that I have solved here is the nut case. That is Candace Owens. Here you go.
Getting close to something, keep going, and we are definitively getting closer to what took place on that day, and we are getting closer. I think we're close. We are definitively getting closer. We're getting close. We're getting low. Very close. We're inching ever closer. We are now, I believe, extremely close to solving this thing. As I inch closer and closer to discovering the truth, I've got a feeling about that. We're close. We're getting closer to something, and that something is pretty big. I just sense that we're getting close. I sense that we are getting very close, and we are getting closer, getting very close to something. We're getting closer because we are getting close. We are definitely getting closer, very close. We are very close. We are close. We are dangerously close to something. We are dead close to something. And I think every day we are inching closer to who killed Charlie Kirk. You know we're getting close. We're inching ever closer. We are inching closer, a little closer to solving the Charlie Kirk murder. And I'm getting very close. And we are getting very close. But I'm getting closer. I'm getting real close. My prayers are with you, Candace. You are close. We are close. And we're getting closer to the truth. We get closer. We are getting close.
So, is she a conspiratorial kook or a clout-chasing con artist? Same question goes for John Mappin, by the way. But while we're on Candace Owens, you know, at what point must a question asker be required to start answering questions before being considered a truth teller? People seem to have this belief that asking questions equates to telling the truth. It does not. It's an obfuscation of the truth, often because it allows you to run rampant with your own narrative without ever having to reveal the actual truth. You just get to keep saying that you're close to the truth. Now, you might tell people that you feel this way or that way because of vibes and visitations from Charlie Kirk, so on and so forth. You might say you have the proof. You might say you're on to something, that you're close to something. But if you never really put that proof in the pudding and reveal it to the public, then you're just padding your own stats. You're just counting your own numbers. And I think that's what she is continuing to do. It's sad to see how many people follow her lead. Someone else who has been following her as well as funding her is, like I said, John Mappin. But yes, a little bit of information here for you. As you can see in this screenshot, Candace Owens is also following John Mappin because of course she is. As has been pointed out repeatedly, and as is no surprise, Candace Owens is a follower of John Mappin as opposed to Charlie Kirk, who she certainly wasn't following at the time of his assassination, seeing as how she has so much more in common with her Scientologist funding father than she had with her supposed BFF. I'll add that these conspiring creeps all seem to follow each other. Both Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are big fans of John Mappin, highly recommending his biography, which you can see here on the screen now, written by this other guy, but it's about John Mappin, and he has been promoting it heavily, in part because it was published just after Charlie Kirk's assassination. So some others who are promoting this biography are Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Tucker says, "Free your mind, free your country, free the world. It's possible, as this book explains." And then the other quote here is from Candace, who says, "John remains a tireless champion of freedom and peace. His book constantly speaks to those ideals. Throughout, he cheerfully demonstrates himself to be a valiant warrior for truth, as we all know him to be in person." A bunch more reading material for you here on the screen. I don't know if you can see it, tiny text there. But I'm going to go ahead and move on down this thread. I do have a couple of articles pulled up about John Mappin. An article from Kate Spicer published in the Times. Title of the article is "My Stay with John Mappin, the QAnon Hotelier." And she's recalling an encounter with the British man linked to the U.S. cult of Scientology, by the way. Oh, seems like a relevant detail. This is not Kate Spicer on the screen, just so you know. All right, another article, History of Camelot Castle, where he resides, or at least I believe he still resides there. Commissioned in 1894 by entrepreneur Sir Robert Harvey, who made his fortune in South America, designed by renowned Victorian architect Sylvanus Treville. The castle opened in 1899 after 5 years of construction, and this goes on and on and on. In 1999, John Mappin of the Mappin and Webb Jewelry dynasty acquired the castle as a private family home, inspired by the creative potential of the space, and particularly by artist Ted Storton's work. John and Irina Mappin decided to open their home to guests to share its unique atmosphere. In one of those events where they opened their home, their mansion, which looks like a castle, to guests, both Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk were there for a TP event back in 2018. Supposedly this is when Candace Owens met her now husband, George Farmer, who may or may not currently be locked in her basement, or maybe in the basement of this castle for all I know. These people are all connected, as I said. That's where George got his start, in a sense, because he had connections to TP UK. He worked with them, and there's a bit of a debate on the extent of John Mappin's connection to them, because he claims to be a founding father, essentially, of TP UK, and they deny that to this day. So what else can I say about that? Or this? Well, I guess I'll go ahead and read a little bit of this article. Back in 2006, I was introduced to a man called John Mappin, says Kate Spicer. And by the way, this article was published in 2021. He was, at that time, a prominent figure in the Church of Scientology and lived in a suite of rooms with his wife, Irina, in a grim and rather dreary Victorian hotel on a stunning bit of North Cornish coastline. The hotel itself was unprepossessing, really. Weird word. Hovering between 2 and 3 stars, although it had a grandly auspicious name, Camelot Castle. Mappin stuck in my memory because my short stay there was odd. I started following him on Facebook, where his messianic and fervently right-wing posts were a goldmine of amusement. Then in December 2019, Mappin raised a flag over his castle that had a Q on it. Mappin had literally started flying the flag for QAnon, a forum for conspiracy theories that has flourished in the chaos and uncertainty of the Trump presidency and the global pandemic. The reason, he claimed, was to wish Happy New Year to all the great truth seekers throughout history. Many were sucked into the QAnon cult in 2020, although Mappin was early to the party. The rest of us only realized its power when we saw QAnon followers storming the Capitol after Trump's speech calling for action, for which he's been globally condemned. Okay. This article seems to suggest that Trump specifically called for people to storm the Capitol, which he never did. So take this article for what it's worth. Just a little bit of information on John Mappin. This is a lengthy article, so I will save it for later, other than to show you this photo now of the QAnon flag indeed being flown above Camelot Castle. Yeah, lengthy article, like I said. So I will leave the rest of that unread. This is John Mappin and Irina, and also their castle. Can't miss it. Oh, you cannot see her. Let me move her up there a little bit. There we go. Definitely worth doing a deep dive here. Ain't nobody got time for that right now. I'm already running late. Have a lot on my plate, but I do want to share a little bit more with you before I go. Oh my word. How have I never heard this cringe attempt at rapping by John Mappin from back when he was repping President Trump? I say back when because these days he's surrounding himself with people who are intentionally trying to tear down the Trump administration. People who are taking pot shots at the Trump administration over foreign policy, namely. Yeah. So I don't know if he would consider himself pro-Trump anymore. He seems to consider himself pro-everybody. I mean, a few months ago he was saying how great he believed Erica Kirk was, but at the same time he supports Candace Owens attacking her constantly. I don't know what this guy actually believes. Typical of Scientologists who are a bit mysterious. Here's this video of him rapping as free speech defender posts in 2020. John Mappin, one of the founders of Turning Point UK, though that's debatable, as I already mentioned. John Mappin, who flies a QAnon flag over his castle. Yes, you read that right. He also has a picture of a QAnon flag atop his castle, right behind his head here. Yeah. He produced a 2-minute rap song in support of President Trump and encouraged followers to share it in QAnon groups. Here is that rap. All right, just as a little side note, I ran out of time. Had to go back to work. Put this on pause, but I'm back. I'm going to see if I can get back on track here. Don't even remember where I left off exactly, except I do remember that I was going to play this for you. Yes, my cat has come to say hello, in case you're wondering. This rap video of sorts from John Mappin. So, John Mappin, rapping. Enjoy this. True piece of art from a con artist.
Now, I'm not your usual Trump supporter, but he's laid down a challenge, so I thought I oughta. As he came down the escalator, we just knew this was America's bolt from the blue. For way too long, the human race has been crushed by the blokes that run this place. We needed a champion, we needed a knight, to draw his sword and start to fight. We'd hoped and prayed this day would come, a winner to defeat the swampy scum.
And then awkward pause.
The own fake news, that horrid bunch, going more insane with every counterpunch. Megyn Kelly tried, with Fox's help, to take him out. But
Sorry, a lot of distractions going on here. You know what? I'm just going to point out that it was amusing to me that Megyn Kelly was referenced in his little rhyme as an anti-Trump individual. And she was, early on. She played the victim a little bit. I'm not saying there was no reason to, but because of some things that Donald Trump said to her back during her days of moderating debates. Yeah, she was not too happy with him for a while until she was, and she endorsed him, put a MAGA hat on even, and now she's just MAGA adjacent because she's siding with all of these increasingly anti-Trump individuals like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, who may try to play both sides of the situation at times, but yeah, they're not really Team Trump at this point. If anything, they're going to take votes away from Republicans, whether you're Republican or not. It's just worth noting that. Actually, I saw some article which was published just yesterday, I believe, where Megyn Kelly was taking shots at Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin, of course, and saying that they were never really MAGA. Not that Ben Shapiro has ever really claimed to be the most MAGA man, but on the other hand, Megyn Kelly herself has flipped and flopped on the issue, so I'm not so sure she has much of a reason to talk. Back to this, though. I guess I'll go ahead and play the rest of this video. It's pretty repetitive, so I was considering just cutting it off here, but I'll go ahead and play the rest of it now that I have more time.
Below the belt, Rosie O'Donnell came to his aid. You serve Trump lemons, he makes lemonade.
Oh,
Our champion thrived, our champion rose. His opponents fell away in droves. Jeb collapsed in a sleepy heap. Dynasties fell and started to weep. They thought they had him, they thought he would fail, till he uttered the words, "You would be in jail." Not just a punch, a tactical nuke. There's a reason he's called the counter-punch duke, and when it left his lips, everyone heard the sound that was heard across the rapping world. Word. For that was the point, that everyone knew that winners are winners and that Hillary's through. The rest is history and America's win. But imagine the courage of this man and his kin. As president now, he's having a ball. He fights for the truth and for freedom for all, for America first and our power of choice. A true restoration of America's voice.
I've already heard this enough times to experience absolutely no amusement from listening to it. But hopefully you found some amusement in listening to it. And again, I don't even know if he considers himself entirely pro-Trump anymore. So I think his rhyme would probably be a little bit different today. It'd probably be something about how glad he is that Russia invaded Ukraine, or about how he's the opposite of glad when it comes to everything that's going on in the Middle East right now.
No, I'm not your usual Trump supporter. But pray for this man, his wife, sons and daughters. This is the man that is doing God's work, to expose the fake news and drive the commies berserk. No, I'm not your usual Trump supporter, but he's laid down a challenge, so I thought I oughta. If one man can stomach all that swampy crap, the least I can do is try my hand at rap.
Good for you.
Word.
I give you exactly half a star for that performance. My cat is really getting no more than 1 star right now herself. Back to the thread here. Did anyone else notice how John Mappin's final ex-post before Charlie Kirk was shot was a link to the Candace Owens post with Milo and a caption about how the two of them are shaping the conservative movement? How's that going? Here's a screenshot of that, back to back, because I went back through the archives, searched the specific times of reference, and saw that indeed, John Mappin one moment was linking this podcast with Candace and Milo, and then 40 minutes later or so, he was saying, "Pray for Charlie Kirk with all your heart and soul," as most of us were. But yeah, so I'm going to highlight something at the bottom of this first post of his. Well, the one at the bottom of the screen. John Mappin said, "Candace and Milo are shaping the conservative movement, whatever you may think. Their discussion here is totally extraordinary and is a revolution in thought. The rise in the gaytriarchy." Yeah, something that he wants to highlight there, because that's what the title of their podcast was, as you can see here. And then John Mappin continues, saying, "It's a surgical strike." Interesting, right? Because here in this post, he says, it's a surgical strike. And then here in this post, less than an hour later, he says, "Pray for Charlie Kirk, who was surgically struck by a bullet." What do we think? Coincidence equals correlation, correlation equals causation? Should we take that approach here? I don't think so, but I'm just making a point, as I say here in the rest of this post of mine. By the way, a conversation about the rise of the gaytriarchy is wildly amusing when Milo is involved, considering he has notoriously been gay, not to mention he has claimed that both Charlie Kirk and George Farmer, Candace's husband, have been gay as well, which Candace never seemed concerned about. Though she herself used to talk about how evil Milo was in years past, despite her now playing along with him when he makes mentions of mysterious lists of Zionists being paid shills or whatever. One more important thing. Notice how John Mappin used the expression surgical strike at the end of his caption exactly 43 minutes before his first post about Charlie's assassination? Well, if I were a conspiracy theorist like Candace Owens, I'd argue that coincidence equals correlation and correlation equals causation, just as she did back when she decided to implicate Josh Hammer in the assassination simply because he was referring to the death penalty and public executions a day earlier, specifically in regards to Irina Zarutska's murderer, of course, and I talked all about this at the time. Josh Hammer was indeed referring to Irina Zarutska's murder and her murderer. So was Charlie Kirk. It was literally what he was talking about the day before he himself was assassinated. President Trump was talking about this. He was posting about this. I was posting about this. John Mappin himself was talking about Irina Zarutska's murderer. And yet, when Candace Owens decided she wanted to smear Josh Hammer and try to tie him into the plot to assassinate Charlie Kirk, she posted arguing that there was no reason to believe that Josh Hammer would have been referring to anything other than Charlie Kirk's assassination, therefore implicating him in the assassination. Yeah, total mind games, totally disingenuous. I recorded a whole video about this at the time. It was one of the few things I was able to keep up with in all of this. I mean, I have kept up with all of it for the most part. I just haven't been able to consistently record content, much less upload it. If Candace plays stupid mind games, we're supposed to pretend she's a genius, even though she'd say someone such as myself was stupid if I used the exact same tactics against her. Johnny on the spot Mappin is the guy pretending Candace is a genius, and that makes him either stupid or a con artist just like her. And I'm guessing it's the latter. Welcome to their fake and gay cult of Catholic Scientology brain rot. Seems to be quite a combination of those things involved in their ideologies. So good grief, the level of self-promotion here. Check his thread. This is a thread thrown together by John Mappin shortly after Charlie Kirk was murdered. As I say here, Charlie Kirk was murdered and John Mappin tagged half the planet to draw attention back to his event in 2018 and later his biography. I get it. It's all about connections, conspiracies, and grifting. And that's my interpretation of this. But you see here the date, September 12. John Mappin posted, "Dearest Candace." He tagged her, of course. He always tags her. "We thought that you and other friends of Charlie Kirk might appreciate this at this time. The auspicious and star-crossed night on 11th December 2018, when you and Charlie first arrived in London to launch Turning Point to this nation. We launched Turning Point UK and changed all our lives' trajectories, including that of TPUSA. When George arrived, Curious George, who has some pretty damning reports on him, some documents about a DUI from a couple of years ago. People are talking about that online right now, and I want to talk about it at some point, but for now I'll continue with this post. I recall uttering the now memorable words, "I don't believe you have met Lord Farmer's son, Candace." And the rest, as we know to say, is future. One has made a few introductions in one's time, but the introduction of Turning Point to the United Kingdom that night the introduction of Charlie's and your philosophy and way of thinking, and most joyfully, our introduction of you to your loving husband, George, ranks up there for sure. So this was Mr. Mappin taking credit for George and Candace meeting, ultimately getting married, of course. Didn't take them long to do that. He's also promoting his event from 2018. God had his eye and hand on the kingdom that night for sure. How we will fill the awful vacuum of friendship in our lives that Charlie has left, I don't know. What I do know is that Charlie and you, with the help of many other friends of freedom, have created a political and spiritual legacy. A juggernaut that is beyond compare in this world. Our family will do whatever we can to help his legacy and to ensure that it stays true to those highest possible purposes as Charlie intended. So, since this time, he has attempted to preserve and protect Charlie's legacy by helping people like Candace Owens destroy his legacy. This goes on in regards to purposes as Charlie intended. We know, as you do, what they were. And I am sure that God in his grace will ensure that those purposes continue to shine as brightly as Charlie shone that night in London and on so many other occasions. And that providence will continue to be part of his and your and of our story. He really wants to be part of that story, doesn't he? You are all in our prayers. I would ask all watching this and appreciating this special moment to pray for Erica and Charlie's children. Then he tags Erica Kirk. He tags J.D. Vance. He says, all our love, John and Irina Mappin. Then he tags his wife. Interesting character on her own merits. Then he tags Nigel Farage. He tags Piers Morgan. He tags his wife again. He tags Tucker Carlson. He tags Melania Trump. He tags RFK Jr., Tyler Boyer, some people over at TPUSA or people related to them, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, how's that working out for her? Candace Owens, of course, Robert Malone, a whole plethora of people. That's my point. Look at all these people he tagged. So he wanted everyone to see his little compilation here. I'm not going to play all of this. This is 7 minutes and 55 seconds long. And actually, this is a portion of the video from 2018 in which Charlie and Candace were both at the aforementioned mansion, the castle, if you will, for an event. There's John Mappin introducing them. All right, slight change of plans again. My cat is back. My wife has gone to the gym. I am babysitting, so no promises on how this is going to go. Let me see if I can wrap this up. But I just want to go through this thread and then the rest of mine. So here John Mappin posted a link to that original event of his. The video is up on YouTube still, featuring speeches from Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens.
And 1 million people from the Middle East.
Speaking of the Middle East, I'm not actually going to play that, but it's on Bright Spark Media. Unlisted. Okay, well, if you want a link to that, let me know. I guess he wants to be able to determine who gets it. That might help explain why he's linking it as much as possible. Because he wants everyone to see it, but he doesn't want just anyone to see it. Not sure if that makes sense. But I digress. Here's the invite. John and Irina Mappin, Peter Southall, Lord Tyrone Plunkett, and friends invite you to a private evening with Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens. A gathering of political genius. The introduction of a fresh new political philosophy. A solution to cultural Marxism. And now his solution to that would be, as he calls it, Christian Scientology. Not sure I'm down with that, but A merging of Turning Point USA and Camelot Castle, as you see in the bottom corners of the screen. There's not much of a connection there these days, other than the fact that he's trying to continue to connect himself to both Turning Point USA and Turning Point UK. But here are some of his photos from the event. Lo and behold, Mr. Mappin, Mr. Farmer, Mr. Kirk, and Mrs. Owens or Farmer, because she's married to him, but does not generally go by his last name. Legally, yes, but in terms of her fame and fortune, no. Well, he has fortune, so no worries there. But in terms of her own individual success, she loves to, for example, publish books about making him a sandwich. It's an anti-feminism book of hers, talking about making her husband a sandwich, yeah. But she doesn't even take his last name. Well, legally, but not logistically. Let me actually show you what I'm talking about. I just found this slightly amusing. Candace Owens published a book, a New York Times bestseller, actually, titled Make Him a Sandwich, Why Real Women Don't Need Fake Feminism. But she doesn't even put her husband's last name on the cover of the book. So she's all about making her husband a sandwich. She's not all about taking his last name, though. That's just interesting to me. It's very interesting to me. Just asking questions. Okay, going through the rest of this thread here. More photos from the event at hand as of 2018. Back before everything fell apart. Okay, breezing on through this. Down to the bottom of this thread of his, he added a couple posts. One about this. In his caption, he says, Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk, and the Pursuit of Truth by John and Irina Mappin, IF Magazine, International Edition. Some sort of magazine with a lengthy caption attached. I'm not going to read all of that, but the cover of this magazine here, IF Magazine. Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk, and the Pursuit of Truth, when friendship becomes the highest form of patriotism. An editorial by John and Irina Mappin. I don't know exactly what his wife has to do with all of this. He references her quite a bit, but I don't know if this is all coming from him. Beneath this magazine cover, he links his Substack. These are posts from October, so I'm wondering now if he published this editorial about friendship, the friendship between Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk, supposed friendship, after the assassination. So further driving the wedge between Erica Kirk and her own husband's legacy. Now, this was back in October when he was still pretending to be a big fan of Erica's, but take that for what it's worth. It looks like he goes back and links posts from Candace Owens or posts from himself about Candace Owens underneath his, well, posts. It's a never-ending rabbit hole to go down. Down beneath that editorial, here he reposts his biography. I already told you a little bit about that, but yeah. He has to shout himself out in any way humanly possible. What else do I have here for you? Scrolling on down a bit further, I'm looking for the extent of John Mappin's connection to Turning Point UK, and they say he exaggerated it. More in their thread here. So here, the people over at Turning Point UK, where George Farmer got his start, they are taking issue with people attaching Mappin to them. Someone left this in TPUK's comment section. A screenshot of a post supposedly from John Mappin saying, what President Putin, the Kremlin, has done is a gift for the freedom of the world. Those who love freedom have a duty to back him up. It is so important that the deep state's Nazi collaborators are fully confronted. The deep state is on the ropes. The whole world sees. So this was apparently a post of John Mappin celebrating Russia's invasion of Ukraine And this person in the comments was pointing it out, asking about the association between him and TPUK. To which TPUK responds, "Hi, Jessica. John Mappin is not of Turning Point UK. He does not and has not held any position in the organization. As for our stance on Ukraine, I'm sure it is fairly obvious from our tweets. As a QC, I would have expected you to have done your homework before tweeting nonsense." A bit of back and forth here. Another comment from TPUK. "We've just told you Mappin doesn't and hasn't held any position within the organization. No one has actually ever asked us about this before. They just print whatever they want." There's another comment somewhere in here, if I can find it. Maybe it's down here. Yeah. Someone says, "It's Mappin saying this, as far as I can see, and he hosted its launch in Pall Mall. Has he provided any funding ever?" And then TPUK responds to this person saying, "That was not the launch of TPUK." He keeps claiming it was. They say it wasn't the launch. That was a TPUSA event in the UK, as TPUK did not exist until 2020, as the BuzzFeed article you posted indicates. So TPUK is saying there was an event hosted by John Mappin, basically with TPUSA visiting, but TPUK wasn't created until 2 years later. Big if true. All right, enough ado about that. Again, this dude just could not tag enough people. Here I added another post of his to my thread, a post in which he tags half the planet here. Many of those same people I mentioned before: Elon Musk, Secretary Kennedy, the White House itself, Tucker Carlson, of course, Donald Trump, General Flynn. I am Tom McDonald. He tagged Tom McDonald in this post. What in the world? He tagged Milo. He tagged, well, of course, Russell Brand, Piers Morgan, so on and so forth. And again, this is just a clip from the event. And then he's reposting this other post of his, which I already went through. So he just posts and reposts, and then posts below his posts, and then comments and responses to people commenting on his posts and reposts. It just goes on and on. So I don't know what all of this self-promotion is about. I'm not saying that posting content or comments is automatically self-promotion or nefarious, but this guy be doing too much, especially with all the tagging. John Mappin claims credit for founding Turning Point UK. John Mappin claims credit for founding TPUK, but they don't seem to want to have much to do with him. And yeah, here's another post of his, or comment of his. He says, TPUK is the Turning Point UK that Charlie and I helped to found in the UK. It had a licensing agreement with TPUSA. Okay, so there he's saying that he helped to found it. He helped Charlie Kirk found it. I think he's exaggerating his connections a bit, but that's just me. There's a little bit more to that tweet, but not relevant to the discussion. I'm almost done with this now. According to John Mappin, Erica Kirk is, or at least was, even more based than Charlie. Yet this guy continues to glaze his girl Candace Owens, even now as she randomly decides to start smearing Nick Shirley. You cannot be serious. I might have to record a show on that at some point. If she continues to go after him, potentially because he's doing what she only pretends to do from behind her screen. He does the legwork, and she just armchair quarterbacks it all. I say, you can't make these people make sense, referring to John Mappin and Candace Owens. Here he's, of course, reposting one of his own posts in which he's praising Candace Owens for going after Nick Shirley. Mappin says, Candace is probably spot on, R.E. Nick Shirley. It's a data point. Okay, whatever that means. Then, of course, he reposted himself saying that, tags her again, and says, well, that hit a nerve. Golly gosh, the logic of people, and this is what I like to call the over-the-target fallacy. They put something out there, it gets pushed back, and they say, we must be over the target. They put something out there, no one responds, they say, we must be over the target. They put something out there, whether there's a defense against it or a total debunking, they just continue pretending that they're over the target. Candace Owens uses this tactic all the time. So yeah, in contrast to that, I share this with you. John Mappin posting, no kidding, if you thought Charlie Kirk was based, meet Erica Kirk. You have no idea. This was back in September when it was announced that Erica was going to be TPUSA's new chair and CEO. So yeah, at this time, Candace Owens was even claiming to be in favor of her taking over, as was John Mappin. He was calling Erica even more based than Charlie. Well, he's not keeping that same energy anymore. At least he's totally silent about how based she is as Candace continues to attack her. This is why I call these people con artists. There's just no consistency or authenticity whatsoever. Wait, Candace Owens brought down a government? I feel like that would have been breaking news. So, a couple of days before Charlie was assassinated, John Mappin posted this, saying Candace Owens may have brought down her first insane government. So, according to JM, CO brought down a government. Okay, the French government? I don't know who exactly he's talking about, but apparently it didn't age well, considering I don't know what he's talking about. Looks like I have some digging to do between John Mappin, Alexander Dugin, and all of these other interconnected nefarious knuckleheads. So many more details to decipher here. I'll have to dig into all of this at another time, but here Raven Grace posts, Dugin and Mappin worked together. I found where Mappin's magical wife came out of Russia, with no history on her, but 4 name changes, with the same beliefs as Dugin. Candace is working for an organization that includes these 2 men. She's taking her marching orders from them. Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. I don't know. Stay with me, continues Raven Grace. Dugin is known to have been, still is, I believe, into Satanism. Mappin is a Scientologist, self-proclaimed Christian Scientologist. They both praise Candace, Carrie, Tucker, Kent, Alex, and more for what they are doing now to divide the Republican Party. Take out from within, in other words. Dugin has many times said, take the Catholic Church out from within. Is that what they are doing now, with Bannon, Flynn, Candace, and Carrie, among others? Dividing the church? Keep in mind their recent Catholics for Catholics event, in which some of these individuals spoke at. This was run by General Flynn. Candace and Carrie both spoke there. A whole lot of dot connecting here to put this puzzling picture together. I've said many times that her Brigitte series was not about Brigitte being a man, but to take down the Macrons. He says it in the last photo below. Mappin hates Macron due to the influx of illegals. He blames the French for the UK invasion. There's so much in this. Just look at their X accounts. There are some screenshots here, but a post from Alexander Dugin, who I might have to do a deep dive on at some point, says, even if Macron's wife turns out to be a woman, it won't fix anything. It might even make things worse. The damage done is irreversible. In any case, Candace Owens has done more for the victory of conservative forces in France than all the French combined. I don't even believe that she's an actual conservative anymore. Maybe she never was. More of a con artist than a conservative, if you ask me. There's a whole lot of threads to pull, but I am almost done, I assure you. I found this 2010 article criticizing John Mappin, Ted Storton, and Camelot Castle. In it, there's a link to a short BBC Inside Out documentary on how the sausage is made there, but unfortunately it appears Camelot Castle copyright claimed the video. So yeah, there's this article I found, Camelot Castle Hotel and Scientology. Tiny text, you probably can't see much of it on the screen there. Yeah. And in it, there's a link to this YouTube video. But if you click on the link to the YouTube video has been struck down. And it says this video is no longer available due to a copyright claim by Camelot Castle. It appears John Mappin, or whoever was pulling the strings there, didn't like the way it portrayed them, since they like to keep things mysterious and control the narrative. Okay, last post in this never-ending thread. Which statement is more true? I'm asking you. John Mappin is a conspiratorial kook, or John Mappin is a clout-chasing con man? I lean towards the latter, but considering he's a Scientologist, he's got to be a bit conspiratorial by default. I have 4 screenshots here, and these are actually screenshots from comments beneath the initial post at the top of this thread at the beginning of this show, where he claims that Charlie visited him and others. People were commenting and disagreeing with him, providing biblical context in some cases, and then he was repetitively just stating, it was Charlie, it was Charlie, it was Charlie. So here you go, you'll see what I mean. Someone responds to his post saying, that is not Charlie, that is a demon. With the Bible verse here in Deuteronomy, there shall not be found among you anyone who consults the dead, for whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord. Of course, Mappin does not care about scriptural context. He just says, no, it was Charlie. All right, if you say so. Someone else says, you're confusing Charlie with God. God visits you. Imagine Charlie's reaction to you not praising God for the things he's done. Charlie was a person like any of us. Jesus wasn't. Try to keep these things in the boxes in which they belong. Such an unchristian post. And Mappin responds yet again, no, this was Charlie. Very predictable at this point. I don't even know if I necessarily agree with the way that differentiating comment there was phrased. I don't exactly think that God is visiting John Mappin. And I don't agree for a moment that Charlie is visiting him either. So, I agree with that part. Someone else says, those are familiar spirits. They go out masquerading as loved ones. The Bible warns of these. It's not Charlie. And then again, Mappin responds saying, no, it was Charlie. Okay. You want to reinforce that with some scripture or something? I don't know. Repetition doesn't exactly represent reality. I get it. It's personal experience. So you can say you experienced anything you personally want. Leave it up to us whether or not we believe you, and I, for one, do not. And the final screenshot here, a couple of comments and responses to said comments. Someone says, Charlie is too busy glorifying our Heavenly Father in pure bliss and joy to come down and talk to John Mappin. I can guarantee you that you're talking to a demon, sir. And obviously, John Mappin says, no, it was Charlie. So I personally don't believe that Charlie Kirk is up in heaven right now. I believe that he is in the ground, resting peacefully. I believe that RIP means rest in peace, not rest in paradise. And if you're in paradise, you're not doing much resting. We can save debates of religion and spiritualism for another day. I'm just saying, I personally believe the dead know not anything, as the Bible says. They are in the ground, kaput, capiche, rest in peace. All right. And the last comment here with John Mappin's response included, someone says, I pray it's true since Charlie's assassination, a holy fire has burned our hearts for truth. I don't know what to believe about TPUSA. Who betrayed Charlie? And obviously the response from JM is, it's true. Which part? So Charlie is appearing to you in your dream, as Candace would say, or in a vision, maybe sitting down and sipping a cup of tea with you. He can say whatever he likes, but he's saying that Charlie is coming to him on various occasions and telling him the truth. And this person asks, what's the truth? And he simply responds, it's true. Okay, what part? That Charlie visited you? Or that someone betrayed him? If so, who exactly? You should know, right? I mean, if Charlie visits you again, you should probably ask him, hey, who betrayed you? And then tell people what he says. Not that I'm going to believe that either, because it's gobbledygook. I'm just saying, these people are not even remotely convincing in their con artistry. They're just saying things. They're just throwing dirt against the wall and pretending that their hands are not getting dirty in the process. And they are getting dirty, and I think it's disgusting, so that's why I continue to talk about it on this channel. So I encourage you to like, subscribe, and enjoy the ride. If not, leave me some hate mail. Wouldn't be the first time that's happened. I gotta go now. My baby is getting a little mouthy over here. I don't know if you can hear. She's going, bah, 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 bah. And Shaun the Sheep is playing on the TV behind me. Sorry for the distraction. I have to keep her entertained momentarily. Hey there. All right. Gotta go now. Okay, now. Bye-bye then. Peace.